Transformers Podcast. I am Casey Coggins here with Alvin Hebert.
Back at it.
And Andrew Lira.
Hello!
Got another week and another set of NFL games to talk about. And what a set of games they were.
It's all because of Drake.
Yes, we are.
I'm telling you.
We are blaming Drake for both games going to overtime.
I was like, yo, what are the chances?
It was the first time in championship history that both games went into overtime. So there was plenty of history to be had over Championship Sunday. And quite a bit of controversy in both games. The Patriots-Chiefs game was much better football, I think, like overall, than the Rams-Saints game was. Where after the Rams-Saints game, I was like, if you just took away the score, just take away the score. If a team gets into the end zone, you just kick off. Nothing happens. You just pretty much reset, and you watch that entire game. You would think that one team had like 48, and the other team had 16.
Yeah,
it just felt that way the entire game. But they do keep score, and the team that didn't seem to really be able to do much all game ended up winning. So we will start with that game. That is the Rams-Saints game. We'll get to the controversy, so we'll skip over that for now. What was y'all's big takeaway from that game outside of the controversy, Alvin?
Outside of the controversy,
There's something outside the controversy?
right? Honestly, I didn't expect the Saints defense to play as well as they did, especially with Rankins being out, and he was their main force when stopping the run, because he could clog up the middle and he could pass rush
Right. Rankins was definitely a big loss, and
yeah,
but they still.
I felt like they still held it up, from the numbers say, and from what I saw, New Orleans should have had that game in the bag.
Yeah, and it's funny because if you looking at the total yards, total plays, and stuff like that, the Rams ended up with 378 total yards to the Saints 290, but I feel like a lot of those yards came on the two possessions.
Yeah, the end of the fourth and then the overtime.
And I'll get into this when we talk about the night game. Is if you look at Jared Goff's performance, and he ended up with almost 300 yards passing and touchdown, and had a QBR of 75.1, which is a pretty good QBR to have in that atmosphere. But I didn't come away impressed by him at all. I feel like he had a mediocre game, but it still just kind of was they made plays.
They made the plays when they needed them, and then. Also, is it just me, or is C.J. Anderson running the ball better than Todd Gurley is right now?
Well, he went 16 for 44 yards at a 2.8 average. So I wouldn't say that he necessarily ran the ball really well. But I just felt like when he's running the ball is my different. Yeah, my thought process on the Todd Gurley front is that when he was in the game, I think Sean McVay caught on that the Saints were loaded up to stop him, and it kind of he couldn't just kind of call a free-flowing game, because he knew that if he handed the ball off to Gurley, that's all that they were going to be gearing up to stop. But with C.J. Anderson in, it kind of allowed the Rams to have a little more flexibility on what they were going to do. So, well, not necessarily flexibility, but more surprise. Because if they tried to run the ball with him, he might have had more room to run. But they didn't run the ball very well.
No, they didn't.
They ran 26 times for 77 yards. So, this game came down to the defenses, which before the game you kind of weren't expecting that to happen. Andrew, what was your takeaway outside of the controversy?
Outside the controversy, I guess probably the first half. I think, what was it, going into halftime? The score was what, 13-10?
Didn't they
Off
score
of
that?
exactly.
It was like 20-10.
It was 13-10 going into half.
13-10 because what do you call it? The Rams scored that touchdown with like a couple seconds left.
23 seconds left.
So I feel like that could have been a real.
If they would have held them?
It wasn't. Yeah, exactly. It was a missed opportunity for New Orleans. You know, you're going in at least up by 7 instead of 10, and you're still getting the ball back.
Yeah, it was. That's my big takeaway. Like, my big takeaway outside of what happened late in the game was that the Saints didn't capitalize. Like, you're at home, you have this big home field advantage, which was obvious because, Jared Goff had to get tape over the ear holes of his helmet so he could hear better. It was so loud in there that actually the Superdome was shaking and a piece of roof fell off. That's how loud it was in there. And, the first possession you start off the game going 11 plays, 56 yards. Looks like you're going to drive it right down the field and score a touchdown. And then you stall out. And then you get the interception on the next possession for the Rams, the first possession for the Rams. And you only have, like 20-something yards to go, 25 yards to go. And you don't move the ball at all, and you have to settle for a field goal again. So your first two possessions should have been 2 touchdowns, been up 14-0 with 7 minutes left in the first quarter.
That would have been a real big punch in the mouth.
And then it's you're at home. You can pretty much say, look, they're not going to stop our offense with those first 2 drives. But the way that you had to go to settle for field goals, and it just really looked like the Saints didn't know what to do with the adjustments that the Rams had made defensively on the back end. Because Michael Thomas, who had that huge game earlier in the year, had 4 catches for 36 yards on 7 targets.
He was shut down.
And I didn't see, since he wasn't used as much, and I didn't see them really talking about what the Rams were doing at all on him. Like, they didn't really... I don't get the all 22, so I can't see what the Rams did, if they were rolling people over the top, or if it was just Aqib Talib on him, or what was going on. But he was a non-factor for the most of the game. And there were some plays where, had Drew Brees thrown the ball accurately, we would probably be saying things different about Michael Thomas's game, because on one of those first possessions down on the goal, down in the red zone, he has Michael Thomas open on the fade, and he underthrows the fade to where it lets the defensive back into the play, and it gets broken up. So it was just the Saints not capitalizing on all that they had in the first quarter, in the first half, really kind of set the tone for the rest of the game, I think. And then that end of the possession for the Rams, end of the half possession for the Rams that gave them the touchdown, put them down 3 going into the second half, and really showing that, you could move the ball through the air on this team. It kind of became apparent in the second half. One key adjustment that I did see is what Wade Phillips did with the defense when it came to Alvin Kamara. Because did y'all see what he did?
I didn't catch.
So, you know how Alvin Kamara was coming out of the backfield getting lined up with linebackers in the first half, and he had 11 receptions for like 96 yards, and he was the main offensive spark for the Saints the whole game. Well, in the second half, Wade Phillips would take whoever was the defensive end, and sometimes it was Ndamukong Suh, sometimes it was Ogletree, sometimes it was Fowler. He would take that end on whatever side Kamara lined up on, and instead of just immediately rushing the passer, they waited until he came out of the backfield and shoved him and chipped him, and then they would go into their pass rush. So anytime that Kamara was coming out for his little flat route or wheel route or whatever he was going to run, that Drew Brees thought that he would have, all right, he's going to be matched up on this linebacker. He's just going to come and break. I'll have that pass. You could see Drew Brees look that way, and him getting chipped like that messed up the timing, so he couldn't get it there when he wanted to, which allowed more time for Aaron Donald to get home and Ndamukong Suh to get home when he wasn't doing the chipping, Fowler when he wasn't doing the chipping, and you saw it kind of messed up the timing on everything the Saints wanted to do, and the Saints never adjusted to it. They never put a tight end on that side, or they never just put Kamara out wide and just said, all right, if you're in the backfield, they're chipping you, but if we put you out wide, then you'll have more space. And it didn't seem like they adjusted to that. So, I mean, credit to where credit is due for the Rams is their defense played a monster game on the road against a very, very good offense. Before we get to the controversy, any other talking points that you want to get to about this game? Do we want to talk about Greg Zuerlein possibly being able to hit a 75-yard field goal? Because that field goal to win the game was just demolished. It was a 57-yard field goal that hit like 15 yards up into the net.
Yeah, that dude got some monster.
Had some more to go.
So, yeah, controversy now. Late in the game.
As Alvin shakes his head.
Saints driving. They have the ball in the red zone after a huge play from Brees to Ted Ginn. And it looks like, the Saints could play for a field goal and run the ball 3 times, make the Rams burn timeouts.
Either way,
but then so if they burn the timeouts, the Rams after kicking a field goal would still have like a minute and a half left with no timeouts to just all they would have needed was a field goal. And a minute and a half trying to get a field goal is a lifetime for NFL teams. So that doesn't necessarily ice the game. What does ice the game is a first down. Because if you get a first down, they would have used their timeouts. Then you can kneel, and then kick a field goal with a few seconds left. So they throw the ball on first down. Again, this goes to my Drew Brees missing Michael Thomas. They throw a quick slant, just 2-yard slant. He wasn't going to get many yards out of it, but it was, a few yards keeping time running. Drew Brees underthrows it, almost throws it into the ground. Michael Thomas can't make the catch. So the clock doesn't run. Rams keep a timeout. Then they run, get no yards. Rams use a timeout. And now on third down, it's like 3rd and I think it was 9. They run a wheel route with Tommy Lee Lewis, their punt returner, when Kamara doesn't do it. And he's matched up on nickelback, Nickel Roby-Coleman, who had an interesting game. He had some penalties. He gave up some big plays. I believe he was actually the corner who let Ted Ginn go for the safety help with Joyner. And he did that a couple times where he almost gave up some big plays. But Breeze sees that Tommy Lee Lewis has some room, and he throws the ball there on that wheel route towards the sideline, and Roby Coleman demolishes Tommy Lee Lewis. Helmet to helmet hit. Defenseless receiver. Also, the ball wasn't close to Tommy Lee Lewis, so it was a defensive pass interference, and it goes uncalled. And New Orleans erupts like Mount Vesuvius. Because
hate.
Because as I said, first down ices the game. Had the ref thrown the flag, that gives first down and 10 at the 8-yard line, and they can run or kneel, burn the timeouts, and they would have been able to get the clock to about 15 seconds before kicking a field goal. And after the field goal, they would have given the Rams 10 to 12 seconds left to go downfield with no timeouts and kick a field goal, which is nearly impossible unless you're Minnesota. So that call leads to a field goal because then it's fourth down, and the Rams have a minute and a half left with their timeouts because 2 incomplete passes. And they go down the field and get set up for a 30-yard field goal, or it might have been a 40-yard field goal for Greg Zuerlein, and he nails it. And it looked like it was going to bend wide right, but it straightened out. Kind of an odd-looking field goal, and sends it into overtime. And we'll get into overtime after we talk about the controversy. So yes, the controversy is that pass interference.
No, not a pass interference because it wasn't called.
Oh, it was a pass interference, but
it was a missed call.
It was a blown no call. So when you saw that, Alvin, what was your initial reaction?
I was just like, how do you not call that? I was all like, refs are paid. This shit is rigged. The most blatant, like you said, it was all the above, pass interference, helmet to helmet, defensive receiver. The ball was not even close to reaching.
It wasn't helmet to helmet. It was clear. He's pass interference, but I wouldn't say it was helmet to helmet.
Man, that boy came in just
exactly. His hands broke it.
Whatever. But
laid him the fuck out.
Laid him out.
But
I'm just like, how's that not called?
With the ref on each side of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A ref on each side. 2 referees saw it.
Yeah. There are pictures that were shown where the ball wasn't even in the frame and Roby Coleman was making contact.
Yeah. There's no way that should have happened. And then because that would have been GG, like I said, because they would have either ran the ball or kneel it to make the Rams burn their final timeouts. And then, like you said, it would have been what? They would have had the ball 10 seconds, 15 seconds, something like that. It's a whole different story than Rams making it to the Super Bowl. That changed the whole narrative.
So, that y'all know that I'm I think we all are okay, yeah, it was one play, it was one call, it was one penalty,
shouldn't be
whatever.
In that situation.
Either you shouldn't be in that situation, or there's still plenty of game left. Go finish your business.
Exactly.
So
there was game left.
But this is where that idea with that thought, which I believe is the right thought to have, is there's still game left. Just finish the game and get past it. This is one of the exceptions to the rule, because had that call been made properly, the game is over.
Yeah.
It's it's like calling a goaltend on a layup at the final buzzer that sends the team or gives the team a win.
You went off a goaltend.
It's like if that was a missed goaltend call and it wasn't actually a goaltend, and it's the final play of the game, like they win. Now, I know that goaltends are reviewable plays, but that's where this conversation goes, because there's no reason that penalties can't be challenged. Like, can you give me a reason why penalties can't or shouldn't be challenged?
Because you could challenge any play and look for a penalty.
Right.
If it comes down to a simple hold.
But you only get 2 challenges a game.
But then it comes down to reviews. Will the booth get reviews too? If it's inside 2 minutes, you can't challenge anything. So
unless it's
but see, that's where I think that in that case, like holding in the trenches, like a lot of listen to offensive and defensive linemen talk about playing, and when they played, they're like, yeah, you could call a holding every play, or like you can do this every play, but that's I think a little more trying to get too strict about it. That's like, well, yeah, of course you can call a penalty on every single play, but like, well, do you want to get it right? You want to also let them play, and like then, like nobody likes watching a bunch of flags being thrown the entire time.
If you convert on the third down,
but
the defense can throw a flag and be like, "Well, challenge." But we're gonna come back
to the final 2-minute conversation. Now, is there was a play in last year's playoff. It was a 3rd and 6. It was Patriots Tennessee. And by the way, I don't know if y'all know this about my Patriots haterdom. I try to watch every play of every Patriots game, so that I can pick out plays. I can find plays that like, okay, well, that wouldn't have happened if this didn't happen, and it fuels the fire that rages inside me.
So Spygate and Deflategate doesn't fuel it up for you enough?
No, because every team gets to put footballs to their level of PSI, like go beat them like that. Their deflated footballs didn't change that game. Like it didn't.
How much were they up by in that game?
They were going to beat the Colts regardless of that, whatever the football PSI was. But it was 3rd and 6, and the Patriots had the ball, and they ran like a left side sweep, and to me it's a very blatant hold on their left tackle, on one of the Tennessee linemen, who would have been able to seal the edge and make a stop on 3rd down, allowing them to get the ball back and possibly driving down to win the game. But that hold wasn't called. And like, if you're in the final 2 minutes, like that's a hold that you need to go and see if somebody held, because that changes the outcome of that game. So in final 2 minutes, like, yeah, you should be trying to find every call is a critical call. Like every roughing the passer where, the face mask never gets hit, like in the game we're going to discuss in a little bit, happens. Like, if they're able to review that, they don't call a roughing the passer. They don't call a holding, or they call a holding, or they call a roughing the passer, and they get it right. And that's where I think the final 2-minute conversation should be, just get it right. The rest of the game, let the coaches challenge a call, because it could be a critical call at that point of the game. Where, if somebody gets called for a hold on a 3rd and 6 and you get the 1st down, you don't think it was a hold, you want to be able to challenge that play, because then you get a 1st down and you continue your drive. So, like, I feel like the final 2 minutes, you want to get every call right. The rest of the game, leave it up to the challenges, where it has to be a blatant advantage given. Like, if there's the typical offensive lineman, defensive lineman scrum where it might have been a hold, but, you know, it was away from the play. Like, there's no reason to, like, well, we need to go review to see if this is a penalty. You can also have guys sitting there in the booth dinging into the head referee, the main referee. Hey, there was a holding call on number 72. You might want to go review that. Like,
but what about when it comes to momentum? Games shift with momentum. You can stall out a game completely, especially in the last 2 minutes. You can kill a drive on a defensive play that you're gonna have to throw a flag on after that, and it's just gonna
right. Well, so if the defensive play is, you know, a pass interference that should have been called and wasn't, and the momentum swings to the defense who got, like, the momentum's gonna swing to the team who gets the call. So if it's the wrong call, then you're swinging momentum to the wrong team, which is what happened. Because you see a defensive pass interference, you know you're going to the Super Bowl because of it, but then it's not called. You know how deflating that is? You just you're like, they just took this. Now you're going to tell your defense to go out there and try to defend them when you're like, but we just had the game right there. Like, that's heartbreaking in that instant when if they are able to go and get the call right, then there's no, the Rams didn't deserve the momentum for a blown call. They deserve the momentum for actually being able to go downfield and kick a field goal and score points the way that they did.
But it's not so much a shifting of it, it's a killing of the game, pretty much. It's just, all right, cool, so we're going to take a break here to review this.
Yeah, but...
And then they're going to review it in 5 minutes.
But they already do that with all the other plays, though.
Yeah, so why are we going to do it more? It's going to turn into baseball. Where it's just...
But I think you're taking the extreme where, they're going to sit there for 10 minutes trying to review. Oh, did he get there early? No.
Well, because that's what they're gonna do either way. That's what they do already. They're like, all right, cool. We're gonna make sure.
But we're gonna find it. Those are plays that it's it's touchdowns, it's turnovers where.
And what if it's not this clear? What if there is that well, you could call it, but I mean, you could also no call it.
So I'm
well, they already do that because on those calls they don't.
I'm in favor of play stance. Yeah. I'm in favor of a time limit to a review. If you can't figure it out within a minute and a half, then the call stands. That's it. If you can't figure it out,
but I'm saying the judgment call is just right there. Here's a line, and they're on it. Do you call it? Do you don't call it?
Well, if it's judgment calls, the call stands. That's how it's always been with the review. Is if you're not 100% sure, the call will stand.
But this is going to be coming down to the penalties. So, given a face mask, if it's just a touch of the face mask,
that's not a face mask. If it's an inadvertent touch of the face mask, it's not a penalty.
But I'm saying
but if it's tugged,
yeah. If you're going for the tackle and you grab it, but you let go, you still pull the head. But you let go because it's inadvertent.
Right.
That's going to get called for a face mask.
Right, and you should still be able to go in if need be, go in, review it, see, yeah, that shouldn't have been called a face mask, and everybody hates when refs take over the game. When an outcome is decided by a ref and it's not decided by the players.
And now it's going to come down to that even more.
And no, it's going to be the opposite way because now you're taking the whistle out of the ref's hand pretty much by saying, look, if you screw up, we're going to make your screw up better. We're going to fix your screw up. We're going to fix the no call. We're going to fix the call to make sure that it is the right call. Because now it's not now the game is still decided by the players. Because when the game's decided by the refs when they miss something. When they throw a flag when they shouldn't have, or when they don't throw the flag when they should have. That's when the game is decided by the refs. But when the refs if you can have the refs at 99% accuracy in the final 2 minutes of a game, that's when it's decided by the players. Because the game being decided by the players in that instance was player Roby Coleman, player Tommy Lee Lewis, player Drew Brees. Throwing the ball to Tommy Lee Lewis, getting hit early, Roby Coleman. That was the players deciding the outcome. And the ref ended up deciding the outcome when he didn't make the right call. And that's what we need to fix.
I think they need to definitely do something for something that egregious. Because, I don't know, like, because, like, in soccer, they don't review most calls, right? Like, they only review, like, if the ball went through the goal line.
Yeah.
And the one that I love that they review is if the person dived in the box to try to draw a penalty shot.
Yeah.
Like, something like that. Like, I feel like...
Offsides, I think, is reviewed, too.
Are they reviewable now?
I feel... No. They just show the replay all the time.
I know they're we're working on something about that, but I don't know if it's...
But yeah, like, to me, offsides is something that should be reviewable in soccer.
Yeah.
Because that's deciding the outcome.
Yeah,
like,
you straight up killed the momentum on that play.
If he's offside and they don't call it offsides, then the defenders who are trying to draw him offsides don't get the credit for their defensive play. And if he's onsides and he's called offsides, like, that goes back to what I just said. You don't want outcomes of games decided by somebody who wasn't, like, somebody on the sideline, pretty much. Like, you don't want those guys to be deciding the games. Like, as a fan of sports, I would rather watch these players win championships and win games based on their own merit instead of being able to watch a ref put himself into a position where it's like the 06 Kings Lakers series. Is that what it was? 06 or was it 02? 02 Kings Lakers.
Yeah,
where they were the Game 6 series.
The Robert Horry shot.
Yeah, where it was that series where the name's slipping from me, the ref who ended up coming out saying, like, yeah, we were betting on games, and they had that whole controversy, and then 4 years later there's the controversy of the Mavs Heat final where they were calling, like, every foul that they possibly could think that they saw for Dwayne Wade, and he, like, broke records for free throw attempts in the finals.
You're talking about Tim Donaghy?
But yeah, like, you don't want those people deciding outcomes of series and games and championships, and so to me it's I think Andrew, you are taking it to the extreme where you think every play is going to be reviewed for a penalty, when it should be how the NBA is when they feel like something needs to be reviewed, like in the middle of game, they don't break play, they circle, and then they'll come back, and that's for, like, a made basket if it was a 2 or a 3.
I like the imperfect system. I think they're imperfect games. It's human error goes all over.
That's why.
So let's keep that in there.
In the final 2 minutes, which is crunch time of games, a penalty can cost a Super Bowl berth. And if that call is not made, then you are essentially unfairly crediting the other team.
Since Alvin interrupted the show.
Yeah. So
when Tony Romo speaks, you gotta listen.
No, you don't.
Unless there's players on the field.
I was calling those plays before he was calling those plays.
Were you on TV?
I was sitting here in front of April telling her, like...
You should have had it recorded, because then you would have been receiving offensive coordinator offers.
I, after all this Tony Romo love, I'm like, shit, I need to be doing these live game play-by-play. I'm calling this shit before he does. Because it was obvious what the Patriots were doing.
Yeah.
And we'll get there. So we need to get back to this ref rule. So what I was saying is essentially you unfairly credit the team with a win if you're not getting the call right. And while I agree that there should be some sort of imperfect system because human error exists in the world. That's why I don't believe in a computerized strike zone. Like, I don't want an automated strike zone. I love the umpire behind there because he can say, look, I'm going to call it, 3 inches outside on this side, but I'm not going to give you an inch on the other side. Yeah. And so batters have to adjust, pitchers have to adjust. I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with is a team losing a game because an egregious error was made. That's where in baseball, that imperfect system, it's kind of like if strike 3 is called where the batter is looking and the ball was obviously 4 inches off the plate and it was a ball, like, don't you feel like that batter should be able to, like, that team that just got unfairly rung up and ended the game, don't you feel like at least in that instance we should be able to say, hey, wait, that wasn't the right call to be made. The rest of the game, like, it doesn't matter, but you're ending the game literally on that play.
Straight up.
And you don't want the games to end because of something like that.
I'm okay with it.
Unjustly.
I'm okay with it.
I'd rather have him make a call that was bad instead of making no call. I feel like when you don't make a call, that's like the worst thing ever because you're just, in your mind, you fuck yourself in your head. You're just like, I'm not gonna force my hand and throwing a flag or blowing a whistle. Like, you're already in your mind state on not doing that. And then when it happens, you're just like...
It's funny because that's
you're like, oh shit, do I do it? But I already told myself I wasn't.
Right, like I don't want to be the decider of the outcome of the game, so I'm not gonna throw the flag because then there's still time left and the same. But you decided the game because not doing it means the Saints have to go through the rest of the game.
We're going down here. You just reverted us to take a detour.
Yeah, like you... I want to see the calls be made correctly. Like, I want to be able to see in the NBA in the last 2 minutes if a block is a block or if it's a charge. I want to be able to see if somebody actually hit the person on the wrist or they just... flung their arms in hopes to get a call. Because if you're giving credit to the flopper, and Spurs fans, Manu Ginobili is like all-time flopper.
Yeah,
like
he went to the Vlade Divac school.
Old European style soccer players. But like, do you want to see LeBron in the fourth quarter, 10 seconds left of Game 7 of the NBA Finals, go up for a 3, like that coming around the pick and roll and kind of just like flailing and going up quick and not actually having contact but making it look like you get contact, and the refs call a foul and so he gets to go to the free throw line to win the game. He wouldn't make the free throws, but
I know that.
But would you rather see him get a call for flopping and winning a championship, or would you rather have them get the call right and go back and be like, hey, no, you like, there was no foul there, like, we're gonna play from the end of the possession or whatever, like that gets into a weird gray area because the foul was called, if he misses the shot, like, nobody's going for a rebound, so maybe go to jump ball or stupid shit like that, which is going to be getting way further off of the football games than I'd want to go. But like at the end of the day, we want to see the teams decide the outcome of the game. And while we still saw teams decide the outcome, we know that had that ref not been an idiot in that situation, we know that the outcome would have been different.
Yeah, doofus.
Like, and it's funny because the very next possession for the Saints, I think, or the possession in overtime for the Saints, I think they got a pass interference call that was questionable, but like. We don't need the makeup call now.
Yeah. Now we're 0-0.
Like,
that shit's done with it. Now you over here still. That's what I said.
But that's where it gets, is like you want to see the teams be able to decide the outcome, and when there is an egregious error that possibly changes the outcome, like let's say there's a review system. In that instance, like I've said it multiple times, the Saints win. That error messes it up. But if we take just make up a different game and different situation where it's a minute 45 left.
Also, is this just the Saints?
No,
because I mean, it happened last year. Not.
Oh, like you're just talking about, like, is it just the Saints that they blow it like that?
Yeah, isn't it just back to back?
Well, last year I was just Marshawn Lattimore, just I don't know what.
No, so it wasn't Lattimore. It was P.J. Williams. It was the other rookie defensive back for him.
I thought that was Lattimore.
So the play. If you're just talking about the missed tackle didn't really matter because Stephon Diggs was on the sideline. He was going to go out of bounds, and it would have been like a 33-yard field goal. And the kicker had just made a field goal in crucial play. Like, yes, you're still leaving it to the kicker making a kick, and we've seen many times the kicker not make the kick.
Yeah, ask the Bears about that.
But they still would have been able to force overtime with a field goal, where P.J. Williams didn't want to get there too early. I mean, who knows? Maybe if he got there early, the ref wouldn't have thrown a flag.
No.
He got there early, but he got the pick. There's.
Well, he wasn't going to get the pick. Like it was clear and apparent that all he could do was tackle Stephon Diggs, but he didn't want to hit him too early and get a flag, and he didn't want to he was waiting for him, and I still. Like, watching that play, Stephon Diggs' momentum should have led him out of bounds. Like, he was going full speed, jumping in the air, full speed, catches the ball, lands, and stops immediately. Like, I don't know how he stopped his momentum that quickly. It was ridiculous.
That's sports science.
I really need to go find Brinkus and see if he did a sports science on this, because that was ridiculous. And so it was like, on that instance, in that game, the players decided the game. Player missed a tackle. The other player allowed the deep pass on the sideline that shouldn't have been allowed. And Minnesota wins. In this game, a ref decides to not call a penalty that should have been a penalty, and it changes the outcome of the game. It changes the rest of history. Now, if the Saints end up winning, guess what conversation we're not having? The interference call penalty.
Yeah.
But when we know that penalty changed that momentum that you were talking about, it completely changed everything to the team that didn't deserve it. That's when it goes off the rails, where it's like we need to fix something. So enough on that game, because we can probably talk about that play and that game for another week. Let's get on to the good game, the fun game, the exciting game.
The GOAT? Cool coast.
The GOAT, Bill Belichick, was at it again.
With his protege goat, Tom Brady.
Yoda to Luke Skywalker.
You could Andrew,
9 Super Bowl appearances.
Andrew, you could
9 Super Bowl appearances.
You could throw to those receivers.
How many did Peyton Manning have? Not 9.
No, not 9. He also didn't play for a coach that good and with a defense this well coached.
Tony Dungy was a pretty good coach, though.
Yeah, you got to give Tony Dungy credit.
Tony Dungy was a decent to good coach.
I'd say better than good.
I would say good at most.
At most.
At most. Like
I'd say good at least.
like I don't think he's as good a coach as Andy Reid is, but yet Tony Dungy has a Super Bowl. I don't think he's as good as Marty Schottenheimer is or was.
I don't think Andy Reid's a good coach.
What?
I guess the way I see him is the way that you see Tony Dungy. He's all right. He's good at best.
No, see, here's the thing. Andy Reid changed NFL offenses. Like, literally, he changed NFL offenses.
Without getting a fucking Super Bowl, though.
With his game plan. Tony Dungy...
And Donovan McNabb.
Tony Dungy rode Peyton Manning's coattails and a very good defensive postseason to a Super Bowl ring.
Fire, bang, bang. He said Ryan Coattail.
Riding Peyton Manning's coattails.
Oh, get the fuck out of here.
His Tampa Bay team was the team that John Gruden won the Super Bowl with.
But Tony Dungy coached them to not a Super Bowl. In the very next year, with a different coach, they won a Super Bowl. What does that say about the previous coach? He wasn't the GM. He didn't draft those players. He coached those players. That was and he had Monty Kiffin as the defensive coordinator there, who helped revolutionize Tampa 2 defense.
It was still Tony Dungy.
It's his team. It's his team. He's the head coach. Team. Yeah, that's the part of coaching.
Tony Dungy is a good people person.
Oh my god.
He was.
It's like you're talking about a fat girl.
He was.
Well, she's nice. Exactly. No, he's a good fucking coach.
I mean, she has cute eyes.
I mean, when you talk on the phone with her, she sounds cute.
Tony Dunn, like I did say, like he's average to good. I wouldn't put him above that.
No. What is average? Give me an average comparison.
I would put Herm Edwards at average.
Oh my god.
No.
Herm Edwards is average to not bad.
I would put so then I obviously have some sort of like stand, because I think Herm Edwards is an average coach, and if you think he's a bad coach, then
Herm Edwards is a good people person.
Yeah.
He's a great people person, but so is Tony Dungy.
But Tony Dungy's a better coach.
Tony Dungy is a better coach, and I'm not disagreeing. But
you just compared them to each other.
You asked who I consider average.
And you said Tony Dungy's average.
I said Herm Edwards is average. Like, I'm not saying he's average to bad. He's average to good. He's average.
He's average.
I would say Tony Dungy is somewhere in between good and average.
Somewhere in between.
Tony Dungy is good and. Well, let's see. Good and he's actually
a winner.
Quite good. Good and quite good. Not real good. Not great. He's quite good.
Yeah.
If red was the worst and dark green was the best, he's like a light green.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
So, I feel like, Tony Dungy's record is, credited to, there's a lot of credit that the team that he had. Because you just brought up the Tampa Bay team that he had, which won a Super Bowl in blowout fashion, which he didn't coach to that Super Bowl. But then he had the Colts, and as Skip Bayless calls them, the greatest regular season quarterback of all time. Where
makes sense.
He was.
It's only fitting.
He was going. He was going to playoffs and number 1s and 2 seeds, but for whatever reason, same thing with the Schottenheimers, and as you're bringing up the Andy Reids and some of these other coaches, where it's like they can get a team ready to win to get to the playoffs and win a bunch of games in the regular season because you're playing different teams and you're able to figure out a scheme that can work against teams that just are worse than you. But when it comes down to the playoffs, it becomes like, how am I going to be able to play that team in front of me and game plan for them and make adjustments? Tony Dungy just got the 1 Super Bowl. Just like Bill Cowher, he got the 1 Super Bowl. Mike Tomlin.
Is he an average quarterback too?
Quarterback.
An average coach?
Bill Cowher, I think, is in the same range as Tony Dungy.
I think Bill Cowher's a good coach. At least good. He's light green.
See, I don't think I would. I would still think that there. If I'm saying good is 75% of Bill Belichick, and 50% is Herm Edwards, I would put Tony Dungy at like 71%, and I would put Bill Cowher at 75%. I think Bill Cowher.
So Bill Cowher's as good as Belichick, you're saying?
No, I'm saying Belichick is 100%.
Oh, I thought you said 75%.
But he said 75% of him.
I'm saying, 75%.
Man, you're breaking down percentages of percentages.
No, I'm saying 100% is Bill Belichick.
So Bill Belichick is a 10.
50%, a 5 is Herm Edwards.
Yes.
And I would put them right at 7. Like, I guess if you're rounding up, Tony Dungy goes to a 7, Bill Cowher goes to an 8.
That's light green.
But that's going based off of a smaller sample size. If you're going to 100, 75, staying at 75.
That's the average.
Is not.
Come on, that's still good.
I'm not saying it's not good. When did
you said he's average?
I'm saying he's average.
Average is
good.
like a 60.
No.
Yes.
No. A 60 does not get you a degree.
What a 65 gets you a degree?
No, C's get you degrees. That's the same.
And Tony Dungy gets a degree.
Tony Dungy gets a degree.
And a ring.
And he got a ring, yes.
Yes.
But
he's a good coach.
But he's not as good as Andy Reid.
He's better than Andy Reid.
No.
Yes.
No way in hell.
Actually, yes.
No way in hell. There's a reason why Tony Dungy didn't last as long as Andy Reid has lasted.
And what's the reason that Andy Reid don't have a fucking ring with McNabb?
Well, because McNabb was sick in that Super Bowl 1.
And Michael Jordan had the flu.
Right.
But
is Donovan McNabb Michael Jordan?
Terrell Owens played on a broken ankle.
I know. It wasn't his fault. I'm saying Donovan McNabb was throwing up in the huddle, and you just tried to compare Donovan McNabb to Michael Jordan.
I'm talking about playing sick.
Right. And comparing the GOAT of basketball.
If Skip was here, he would have had your head. How dare you say McNabb and Jordan in the same sentence?
But this wasn't even a Brady rant. This wasn't even a Brady rant. You got me going off on the Patriots.
You got about a Tony Dungy rant.
I will say Tony Dungy is a better coach than Jim Caldwell.
Yeah. I'm a better coach than Jim Caldwell.
So this game, you just from the get-go, you could tell that one team was well prepared and the other team hadn't been there before.
Had Kermit the Frog behind
with a fro. With if he puts some product in it with a Jerry curl.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
He should really come out. Like, he needs to go play for the Raiders. Put some product in his hair. Just come out.
Not get crazy.
Got the white headband on.
Got the wave cap. He's got the wave cap with the Jerry curls coming out underneath it.
This is the new Bo Jackson.
Him in 2 times, baby.
So
Let that soul glow. But the Patriots, and I brought this up last week on the podcast, is like, it just, every time I watch them play a playoff game, they just don't make mistakes. And Romo hit on this when it happened. Brady throwing an interception there on the goal line is just completely out of character from Brady, and I agree with it. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, my jaw hit the floor.
When you're the GOAT, you don't do that.
But with what Tony Romo was saying is that linebacker is, like, on the line, and so when you go to do the play-action fake and your back's to the line, you're expecting that guy to be coming in, so when you turn around to throw that pass, you don't see him. And he throws the pass, and Ragland made a great catch. And he made a great play. And you kind of thought that maybe that would get the Chiefs in it. Nope, that didn't quite get the Chiefs in it. But it kept them alive. it kept their head above water. And I think it... I can't remember the halftime score. I put my phone away when I went on that rant. Tony Dungy.
Tony Dungy's a good coach. Very good.
That's not what I wanted. Stupid me. So it was 14-0 at half. And it could have been 21-0. It also could have been 21-7. I think I'd walked away when the Chiefs had it kind of close. I thought they had it kind of close, but I guess they punted the ball. But yeah, they just couldn't move the ball at all in the first half. The Patriots, as always, have a scheme that the other team isn't ready for. Like, you know, this is where my Peyton Manning is the greatest quarterback of all time conversation, and like my like speech goes off the rails because people were like, well, look at the playoff success and look at how many times he lost to Tom Brady. And I'm like, he didn't lose to Tom Brady. He lost to the greatest football coach of all time.
Tom Brady. Tom Brady.
Like, he went up against the defense where I actually went back and watched the 06, not 06, the one of the playoff games, Colts Patriots, where Asante Samuel picked six Peyton, and I like watched that play again because I remember watching it in real time, like live, and thinking, oh well, Peyton just led him to that, and like no, like you go back and rewatch that, and you watch Asante Samuel is not not in the play, and he breaks on the ball and makes a spectacular play. Like, Peyton Manning can't do anything in that situation because everything was leading him to throw that pass because the receiver was open in that instance, and Asante Samuel makes a great cut on the ball and pick sixes him. So it's the Belichick defense is always schemed to perfection. Go back and watch like last year's Super Bowl against the Eagles was as bad a Patriots playoff defense performance that I've ever seen.
Not even the one against Atlanta?
No, because Atlanta, they didn't have to do much. because
Atlanta was lighting that ass on fire.
They're in the first half.
Yeah.
But what happened is the Patriots offense and the Falcons defense got tired, which is again, it's kind of their thing. That's their, we don't care if we're up or we're down, we're going to stick to this principle. We're going to stick to 5-yard slants, 10-yard outs, run the ball, control the clock, just pound it down their throats in the playoff. And by the end of the fourth quarter, they're not going to be able to get a pass rush on Tom Brady. Their defensive backs are going to be tired from trying to play man, so they're going to start playing zone. And it just plays into the hand of the Patriots, and that's where Tom Brady starts breaking all the fourth quarter yard records and fourth quarter completion records and
the fifth ring.
Like all of the records that he broke. Like, they ran 90 plays. 90. Against the Falcons in that Super Bowl. Like, no team gets even to 70. And they ran 90. Like, they had the ball for 2/3 of the game. And you can honestly, you can probably say that had the Falcons not screwed the pooch on that 4th down that they went for, and like they still end up winning that game. But the Patriots they did it this game, they did it last week, they've done it for years, is that they, like, Tom Brady doesn't have to be a great quarterback for them to win Super Bowls.
He just happens to be one.
He does happen to be a great quarterback.
The GOAT, actually.
Which gives them more margin for error, because they did make some mistakes in this game. But having a great quarterback still allows them to do these things. Because Patrick Mahomes put up 24 points in the 4th quarter, which is unheard of against a Patriots defense. And he let them down. I kind of was a little disappointed that they didn't make at least one more throw to the end zone with 11 seconds left. They settled for that field goal.
Yeah.
But, beggars can't be choosers. You go into overtime, and this is where we get into the second controversy of the night, which really isn't a controversy, it's just a conversation piece. Because after that game, I think fans were really disappointed that they didn't get to see Patrick Mahomes with the ball in overtime. And so, here's my question to both of you. Change the overtime rules or stand pat with them? Andrew, I'll let you lead off on your response.
Change them. I think both teams should be able to touch the ball. It's not fair that you're going to win it off of the lucky fucking coin toss.
Mm-hmm.
Alvin, same thing?
I feel each team should touch the ball at least once.
As much as I want to say change them because it's just off of the Patriots getting the ball and winning, because that's kind of where my heart is watching, if Kansas City kept getting the ball, the Patriots weren't going to keep stopping them. There was no way in hell that Patriots defense was going to hold them. And so it comes down to who wins the coin toss, because you didn't think that Kansas City was going to be able to stop New England. Everybody knew what the outcome of that game was going to be when the coin toss was won by whoever team. When it went to overtime, it was who wins the coin toss wins the game. And that's when people were like, well, change the rules, because that's what happened. The reason why the rules got changed were a team, the Saints, went down in overtime and kicked a field goal, and Brett Favre never got to touch the ball. That's the reason why the overtime rules got changed.
Mm-hmm.
In the conference championship game, the NFC conference championship game in 2009, 2010 technically, that season, the Saints, in their bounty gate, got into overtime against Brett Favre, won the toss, kicked a field goal, won the game. Brett Favre never got to see the field again.
It's probably get changed again because Patrick Mahomes never got to see the field.
Now that's why I think it might, which leads me to my second question about this. How do you fix it? What do you do to actually change it? Because the reason why they changed the overtime rules recently, not the scoring rules, but they cut overtimes to 10 minutes, and they've tried to cut down how long overtimes can take, because they don't want teams to be playing as much football. They want to try to keep these guys healthy and limit all the collisions. That's why they've changed kickoff rules. So, with that being the precursor to your answer, how Alvin, would you change the overtime rules to ensure both teams get the ball?
Well, I felt like the overtime rules needed some tweaking anyways, but I feel like on first possession, each team is deserved one possession. I'd just straight off tops, one possession for each team. Even if the first team that gets it scores a field goal or a touchdown, the other team gets a chance with the ball to either score.
Quick question on that.
Touchdown, whatever they need.
Overtime is 10 minutes. What if the team who gets the ball first takes up all 10 minutes and kicks a field goal?
You make it, it's not timed.
Non-timed. And so what if they take...
Or if not time, like start them somewhere like on the...
Make it college rules?
Yeah, like they start like...
Or they just...
What is it on college? Like they start...
They start on the 25.
Yeah, like something like that. I'll start on the 30 or the 25.
But then it's like, you're putting these defenses in really tough positions because these guys aren't college players. Like, they're NFL players. They're best of the best unless, I was going to take a shot and say, unless you take a knee. Because then you could be the best of the best and still not get a job.
Well, I feel like on the first possession, either way, doesn't matter what time is left or whatever, you still get that first possession.
So
like if you want to make it not timed or whatever, so they could run plays quicker instead of just running it down your throat until they...
Andrew, before I get to my response to what Alvin said, what are your thoughts? Like, how do you think you change it?
Or hold up, or you only allowed a certain amount of plays.
I just went to...
Motherfucker, you already spoke.
I wanted to say that real quick. I'm sorry.
I say you take out the time, you break it into halves. You can break it into halves. Either way, you're gonna two non-time.
Like how
it's like soccer.
Exactly like soccer.
I was thinking like that too. And then like when a team is tied.
I'm not done yet.
I'm sorry. Big my beer.
So you have...
Alvin, you're being me right now, cutting people off.
So your halves get put into possessions. You get 2 possessions. Each team gets a possession. The first team, your advantage. You get to set the tone. You want to drive it. You get a touchdown. All right, cool. The next team has to match that, or it's over.
Right.
And then you just go on from there. It's just going to be drives. If you punt, you're not going to punt because it's going to be overtime.
Yeah.
So it eliminates that. There won't be those big hits.
Hypothetically, first team doesn't score, second team scores a touchdown.
Game over.
Game over.
Okay.
First team scores a field goal, second team scores a touchdown. Game over.
But that's why I was saying you have it 2 halves where both teams get the ball. Then it's not 2 halves. It's just one team gets the ball and then the other team gets the ball.
Yeah, don't think of it as halves. Think of it as possessions.
Yeah, and then it goes to the college rules. Oh, motherfucker. I hate when I do this. I had such a good rebuttal to what you said that I wanted to get to Andrew before I got to it. Now it just completely went out the window. Because... because, yeah, I think it's too hard to figure out a way to change it to where both teams get a possession. Because, in the playoffs... If, one team takes 6 minutes, scores a touchdown, and the other team takes the rest of the time and scores a touchdown, and the quarter ends, then you're putting on another quarter. And then, it could go on and go on and go on, and then, you're never ending. And in at least this way, you have kind of it's this, whoever wins the coin toss gets the ball. Now it's this offense against this defense. That defense, you better make a stop. Just like the rest of the game is. It's just like the rest of the game where, hey, defense, you need to prevent them from scoring or else we lose. That's the super basic part of the game.
How about this then? It's like how he said, right? Each team gets a possession, but each possession is a 2-minute drill.
What?
Where each team gets 2 minutes to try to score.
Yeah, you get a 2-minute drill.
So if the first team scores a touchdown, they have the 2-minute drill.
Like you're on Yeah, you're like on the 25. You start off on the 25 or the 30.
It eliminates the kickoff.
And then you just from the 30, 2-minute drill to
but
score a field goal or touchdown.
They've already basically eliminated the kickoff.
Right, but I mean, you still see some instances where
you're still given a chance.
A guy tries to
take it to the house
and get them in good field goal position. But typically, if it was 2-minute drill, and clock starts, if the kickoff is going, clock is at 2 minutes. There's no way that returner, unless the ball's kicked in field of play, is trying to return it.
Yeah, he's going.
And so then, you're going to have kickers just pop it up and try to get it, right in front to the, within the 5-yard line to force a return so that they waste time. And I think it kind of, if you still keep the kickoff in, you eliminate, that takes off some of the time because kickers would just be like, well, now I'm just going to, pooch kick this.
Well, then why don't you get rid of the time until the possession?
Or squib it. I'm going to squib it because even if they score a touchdown, we get the ball on the other end and we get to try to score a touchdown. And so it's and it goes to the, who fucks up first. But I think the way that they have it, first team scores a touchdown, wins, is perfect. It sucks that Patrick Mahomes didn't get the ball. Patrick Mahomes should be going to Andy Reid, going to Bob Sutton and saying, hey, I know I'm the quarterback and all, but I have a suggestion. You see how they're keeping in a running back and a tight end to chip our pass rushers so there's no way in hell that we're going to get to Tom Brady within 3 seconds? Well, why not, instead of, play man on them, why not just play man on them, double their best receiver, Julian Edelman? Why not just do that for a few plays and see how that works?
Because you're just a quarterback. Sit down.
That's where the overtime rules need, that conversation needs to just go out the window. Go back and listen to Tony Romo because he's, as I said, I was calling out those plays just like Tony Romo was, because you can watch and see that they're stacking Julian Edelman every time to get a free release for him so that he can just hit the middle of the field. They did it on both third down conversions to him. And they did the same thing with Gronk on the other third down conversion that they had. Tom Brady on that last drive was 4 of 9. He was 3 of 3 on third down for first downs. It wasn't that he played amazing. He played amazing in crucial situations, which to me is his career in a nutshell. He's not an amazing quarterback, but he's amazing in the most clutch situations, more so than any quarterback in the history of the game. You put him in any situation at the end of the game where he needs to make a play, and he 9 times out of 10 does it, which is just ridiculous in what he does.
Doesn't that make somebody great?
Yeah. I never said he wasn't great. I'm just saying he's not
the greatest of all time.
Greatest. I'm not saying he's the greatest of all time.
He's greater than Peyton.
He's the greatest clutch quarterback of all time.
That's better than being not great in the Super Bowl, getting a safety, losing it.
But so
neck, can't even turn. Have to move your whole body.
The defensive coordinator.
What did you say?
The defensive coordinator, Bob Sutton, for the Chiefs.
Tom Brady has his whole neck.
He lost that game for the Chiefs, by not making the adjustment. Am I scared of Chris Hogan on the outside? No. Am I scared of Terrell Patterson on the outside? No. You know who I'm scared of?
Tom Brady.
James White, Julian Edelman, and Rob Gronkowski. Those are the 3 guys that I'm scared of. And guess what? On that overtime, they had James White in the backfield. They had Gronk in tight end slot, other than when he went outside. When he went outside and got matched up against Eric Berry on a one-on-one, as good as Eric Berry is, Gronk is still 6'7", 280. Eric Berry is still 6'2", 230. There's a mismatch. And on the slant to Gronk on that third down, I was so mad because I knew Gronk was the matchup to watch. Romo was calling, this ball needs to go to Gronk. They had the safety, Sorensen, right in a position to be able to play that slant. And he didn't play the slant. He sat back and he looked like he was spying Tom Brady. It's no, his job, Sutton, Andy Reid, somebody should have been saying, Sorensen, don't let Gronk get a slant. Eric Berry's playing outside leverage, or not outside, inside leverage, whichever way. He's playing to where Gronk can't go down. Yeah, he can't go downfield. So he's giving up the slant because if he catches a slant, it's going to be a 6-yard gain and it's going to leave 4th and 3, as long as the tackle gets made. Gronk, being the polar bear he is, you need 2 men to tackle him if you're going to stop him in his tracks, and even then, that's not enough sometimes. So, to the overtime rule conversation, I spit on you. That it was the Chiefs didn't make simple adjustments that they should have made.
Yep.
And that's why Mahomes goes home without touching the ball in overtime.
Sad.
And what's going to be infuriating for the Chiefs is they're going to go and watch the film. And they're going to look at those 3rd down plays in overtime, and they're going to see everything that Tony Romo called. And they're going to see, why didn't we just bracket Edelman? Why didn't we just put one guy on the inside to cover the slant, one guy on the outside to cover an out route or a seam route, a go route, and then have the 3rd defensive back over there that covers Hogan or whoever the wide receiver is being stacked with Edelman? That might not actually have worked, but it might have. Better than what you did when Edelman wasn't even... The closest person to Edelman off the line was 7 yards.
Way too much cushion.
Time and time again, you see just teams just brain farts. Just completely it's like, we're not going to pressure people. We're just going to kind of sag off and hope that you make a mistake. Why would you
sag off? He never runs straight routes.
In the first half... again, crediting Romo for talking about this. The reason why the Patriots had so much success against the Colts in the playoffs is Peyton Manning works so meticulously on timing routes with his receivers, where it's, you go 10 yards, you break there, I'm putting the ball there, now you're on you to catch it. When it came to the playoffs against the Patriots did exactly what they did against the Colts to the Chiefs. Okay, you want to try to get Tyreek Hill going downfield and Travis Kelce going here, and you want to get all this? Well, we're going to do double A-gap pressure in the middle. So we're going to put pressure in your quarterback's face, and we're going to play press man on the outside. So even if, those receivers catch the breaks, our double A-gap pressure is making your quarterback rush a little bit, and he's not going to be able to throw the accurate pass. And you saw it. When the receiver had a step, or, a couple times it was 5 yards on the Patriots defender, Mahomes didn't have time to actually, figure out where to throw the ball, and he overthrew it. He just tried to get the ball out because of the pressure.
Didn't have enough time to dime it up.
And it was, that's the Belichick against top offenses way. Pressure the receivers, press coverage, and put pressure right up the middle.
Just knock them off their timing.
It doesn't... the outside guys, you don't need the pressure. You need to make sure that the quarterback doesn't scramble.
Yeah.
These guys are going to be the pressure. And they time and time again, you see that system, that scheme works. And we talk about, the NFL's a copycat league. Why the fuck is nobody copying the Patriots? Why?
Because they don't have the GOAT.
Why?
The Patriots. The Patriots have all the tapes.
Yeah, I guess so.
The Patriots have all the tapes.
Bob Kraft is going into Roger Goodell's office saying, "Hey, all my tapes, bring them to me. Don't give them to any other team. They're gonna have to go based off of the camera feeds of CBS. They're not. Nah, all the league tapes. Come on. Here's keeping your job.
Right.
You know how many scandals I've covered up for you?
I'll make sure you got your extension.
Hell, we caught a break with the Aaron Hernandez thing, right?
Oh, dang.
All right. Well, we talked a lot on these conference championships. So I was going to go into a preview of the Super Bowl, but that would take another hour and a half because, y'all are just going to keep goating me and talking goats.
There's only one goat.
The Billy Goat.
Yeah, the Billy Goat, Bill Belichick. So we'll just do Super Bowl predictions, get it on tape, and then we'll go to Fire Dire Prophecies. Andrew, off the top, Super Bowl prediction.
Rams 35-13.
Whoa. What?
Alrighty. I like it. Alvin, on to you.
Patriots 34-21.
And as much as I hate to say it, Patriots, and I see this game being 31-28.
Going on that field goal.
I mean, it's the Patriots' way to win on a field goal or a last-second touchdown like that. They don't blow teams out in the Super Bowl. Have you not watched the years?
All 5 of Tom Brady's rings.
All 5 of Tom Brady's. 1 because Pete Carroll didn't run the ball with Marshawn Lynch. 3 on the leg of Adam Vinatieri, and then the other one they won by 4, I think, against. Oh no, the other one was Atlanta, where they
the greatest comeback.
James White should have got MVP honors in that. He was so fucking James White, not Deion Lewis.
No, James White.
Yeah,
3 touchdowns, game-winning touchdown. Yeah, so that's 31-28 Patriots is my prediction. So quickly. Fire Dire Prophecies. I'll lead off. My fire is Big 12 basketball. The reason I say Big 12 basketball is because there were 3 upsets, with Baylor beating Texas Tech, West Virginia beating Kansas, and Texas beating OU. And it just shows the depth of the conference. Big 12 is top to bottom the best basketball conference in college basketball. The top just isn't as good as the ACC. Like the top of the ACC is definitely it's the SEC West from a few years ago. That's the ACC. It's top teams are just better than everybody else. But the Big 12 will from top to bottom. They have tremendous teams, and
they always do have the most competitive conference.
Yeah. So, Alvin, your fire.
My fire, just like how I alluded to you guys before the start. I think the moves are major, but because of who the team is, it's low key. The Reds offseason so far, with recently trading for Sonny Gray. They had a big trade for they sent Homer Bailey to the Dodgers to get Matt Kemp and Yasiel Puig. They got one of their big players out of arbitration because he signed, but Billy Hamilton, of course, didn't sign. But I think they're making quiet steps to being the
4th best team in the NL Central.
Just to be relevant again.
That division is nuts.
Yeah, it's nuts. Yeah. What are you gonna do with that division?
Hopefully win it if you're a Cubs. If you're the Cubs. Andrew, your fire.
My fire is going to the UFC. Cowboy Cerrone not knocking out. It was a TKO kick. Alexander Hernandez. But
setting up Cowboy versus Connor.
Oh yeah,
but Cowboy's 35 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they agree on that fight already though?
Well, they're about to, but right after that fight, that was when Cowboy had been calling out Connor, and Connor tweeted out like, "With a fight like that, I'll fight you."
Yeah, no, Cowboy
longest winning streak in UFC history.
Most wins in UFC history
and most wins.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. But that Cowboy's 35 years old. He doesn't. I don't think he turns down fights. I don't think he knows how to say no.
I think the last fight he won, which was pretty recently too.
Yes, that's all. He doesn't stop fighting.
He most finishes in UFC history. I think he holds that record now too.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah,
I would expect somebody from way back,
Chuck Liddell,
had those records.
Yeah.
Nope. But yeah, no, I gotta give it up to Cowboy. 35 years old, still.
What is he drinking? That Monster or whatever
TKO.
it is?
Well, he took a year off because of...
he almost died.
Yeah, because of issues.
He almost died. Wait, was that it? Yeah, he almost died because in a scuba accident, I heard.
Wow. Yeah, he did...
He didn't have Scuba Steve with him?
No,
yeah.
No. So, we'll follow up. Who's in dire straits?
My dire is DeMar DeRozan. Hitting a little slump. He's not playing up to par.
I almost put Spurs down.
Last 5 games, he's put up 14 against the Hornets, 14 against the Mavs. He had a DNP against the Wolves, 18 against the Thunder, and just 8 against the Clippers the other night.
He's worn out.
Well, you guys had that hot streak too.
Yeah, he's been playing top 5 minutes of anybody. His usage rate's really high. He hadn't missed a game until the T-Wolves, and he missed that game for soreness because
it was his wrist, I think.
I thought it was his ankle, but yeah,
Rudy Gay was his wrist.
But yeah, he definitely. I think it'd be wise of the Spurs to, get back into the, we can win games without DeMar. The Clippers isn't a game that we win without DeMar, I don't think. But, coming up, whenever they play, Dallas, we should be able to beat without DeMar, Phoenix, Atlanta. Some of these teams, the Spurs should be able to handle without DeMar.
Especially with your young guys showing that they can ball now.
Yeah. So they need to get him primed and ready for the home stretch, and maybe get into a 4 seed and be able to get home court for a first round and maybe get one playoff round win under their belt this year. So they definitely need to get that dude some rest because his slump and his energy level is just not good. Alvin, your dire line?
My dire is the Lakers. Mainly because they never have a correct timeline for LeBron James' injury. It's always I
don't think they really
couple days
have
and then
a
it was day to
timeline
day.
at all. I don't think they're really worried about it. All they're worried about is making sure that they can have him healthy for the run after All-Star break.
Well, I think the growing strain is serious than what they alluded to at first. That's why they came out with, it'll just be a couple days, and then he was day to day, and then they changed it when he feels he's ready to play, he's going to play. He's not going to be with them on the road trip, and they lose Lonzo
for 4 to 6 weeks.
Yep. And they're already out Rondo. They said expecting Rondo by February, something like that. And I'm just man, you guys are at 25 and 22 right now, and you're about to hit a stretch where you just got Brandon Ingram and Kyle Kuzma.
Yeah, and they the injury bug kind of plagued them, and this is not a season where they could afford
I think it's going to force their hand to make a trade.
But I don't know how I feel about the LeBron injury thing because,
to me,
would you put it past Magic Johnson and LeBron James to be talking and saying, "Hey, I'm ready to go, but that I could use as much rest as possible so that I can come back and be myself." Let's hold me out for kind of as long as we can, and let's see what we have in the young guys with and try to keep developing what they can do by themselves, so that I know what they can do. So when I'm on the court, I can help them be the best of themselves.
At the beginning of the season, I would say like I could see that story playing out because he signed a 4-year deal, and of course they sat him down, let him know like, hey, this is going to be a process. But then when the season started and they were in like not a good streak and all that,
yeah,
he was talking about the young players and talking about he has to remind himself to be patient and all that stuff.
Yeah, the Kyrie Irving thing.
Yeah, so
last week.
So with that, I kind of don't see it. I do though, just so he could like come back, take him to the playoffs, and take them deep, and then they could be like, "Oh, he's MVP."
But yeah, I mean,
he saved the Lakers season.
It's they need all hands on deck, and you know the Melo news is going to be interesting.
They're just forcing them to make a trade at the deadline. I don't think they were going
because I think
that.
if they do end up signing Melo after the whole trade to the Bulls and then waive and then all that, Melo just takes up the role that Michael Beasley's in. So are they going to try to package Michael Beasley's expiring contract, some of these other expiring contracts, and make that deal that you're alluding to? Because that could very possibly be something that goes on. So definitely something to watch out for. Keeping it in the NBA, my dire, the Memphis Grizzlies. They are on a 9-game losing streak after losing to the Pelicans today. They have lost 10 of 11. The lone win was against the Spurs. They started off really well in the season, and then Mike Conley got hurt. And then he comes back, and then Kyle Anderson got hurt. And it seems like they're in a bad position. They're not going to contend for anything, so they need to start looking towards the future. So it's kind of to the point where do you start trading people, and who do you trade to? This was a subject on the Bill Simmons podcast. He was talking with Zach Lowe about it and trying to figure out trades that might work for the Grizzlies to get off of Conley's contract, Gasol's contract, and where they could move them. But that's where it feels like the Grizzlies season might be leading with this run of the last month, where they went from they were the number 1 seed in the West at one point. I mean, it's kind of early in the season, but that was still, at one point they were not 1-0 number 1 seed in the West. They were 16-6 number 1 seed in the West, and now they are 19-29. So
yeah, first there was a surprise. That was one of the surprises of the early season.
Yeah, so it's kind of make a move, try to build for the future, but that's why they're on the dire line. And let's get the prophecies going. I haven't checked in on it. James Harden has been on in a magnificent tear and playing just incredible basketball. I have Harden scores 40 points in every game he plays this week before we record next week, which is going to be tonight, playing the 76ers. He also will play the Knicks, the Raptors, and the Magic. And he'll have 40.
One hard game.
Here's the NBA, and some of those games, let's say the Knicks,
well,
are they going?
Magic.
Are they even going? Even the Magic, they might not even need him to score 40 in those games. So it might not
Well, I was gonna say I think the Magic could be one of those surprise teams that keep them in check.
I like their team. I like their team, but Harden scores 40 every game this week. Alvin, your prophecy.
My prophecy is Iowa State will beat Kansas.
Iowa State beats Kansas?
Yep.
Are they at home or are they?
24. I think it's in Kansas.
In Kansas.
And
I was gonna say if it's in Iowa, then that's.
It's a whole different
That's a little more. Yeah.
no, I believe
that doesn't go to the bold prediction.
Just because we said no shot in hell.
No, because you said it, I'm pretty sure I made sure that it was
in Fog
Kansas.
Allen.
Yeah.
Well, while you check that, I do.
Yeah, it's halftime right now, actually.
Iowa State does like to surprise teams in both football and basketball. Andrew, your prophecy.
Oh, my prophecy. So, with the loss this past weekend, Sean Payton has some free time this week. I think he's going to be getting a phone call sometime this week from Jerry Jones.
Come on.
Scott Linehan's out. I think all he needs is for Sean Payton to say yes, and the clapper's out. Insert Sean Payton. Cowboys go to the Super Bowl next year.
If Sean Payton is still under contract, I don't know if he's if his contract's up.
It'll be fine.
That'll go into the tampering situation clause, unless they work out a deal for a trade like Gruden.
That's at Kansas, right?
Yeah. Allen Fieldhouse.
I was just making sure. Because sometimes college basketball likes to mix it up and be like, nah.
Like soccer, where it's like the left side is the home team. Like, what the fuck is this shit? Get out of here, you're up.
So that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. There's no way in hell that if Sean Payton's under contract that the Saints are going to agree to trade Sean Payton. So Jerry Jones is going to have to do some massive manipulation.
He just bought a $250 million yacht.
Do you think Sean Payton gives a shit about a $250 million yacht?
It's not going to Sean Payton.
It's going to New Orleans Saints owner.
Tom Benson?
He dead.
Yeah. Whoever's owning them right now.
His wife.
There you go.
She's not going to do that. There's no way in hell.
He's going to court her.
As Andrew said, we said no way in hell predictions. That's a no way in hell prediction. And that wraps up this episode of the Benchwarmer podcast. I am Casey Coggins with Alvin Hebert.
Iowa State up 42-37.5.
And Andrew Lara.
Dude, I gotta go pee.
We are fans of a different kind. We'll take your girl, pay you no mind. Stealing hearts is what we do. Watch out, girl, I'm coming for